So welcome everyone to the Society of Thoracic Surgeons Congenital Heart Surgery Database user group call. Today is Tuesday, November the 7th. I can't believe it is November already. Let's see here. On the call with me today is just a small group today. We just got myself and Chastity. Leslie is a little under the weather today, so she's not joining us. We also have Janet from the core group, and Dr. Meyer is on the call. So thank you everyone for joining and being on today. I'm just going to give a brief STS update, and then I'll turn things over to Chastity for a little bit of our data manager education. And then, as usual, we'll just finish things up with Q&A. We don't have a lot of information to go over today. So as usual, if you have any questions, please be sure to put them into the Q&A. I'm going to turn the chat box off real quick, but yeah, just please put your questions into the Q&A, and also the raised hand function is enabled if that's easier. All right, so let's get started with our STS updates. Just a few updates from my end. The November training manual and FAQ summary is posted and available out on the STS website. The fall 23 harvest analysis, the data is, the analysis was completed and the data is over at IQVIA, getting processed and ready for upload. We'll be doing our UAT, our internal review of the data before releasing it this month, and then the data is expected to be released to everyone in early December. As you can see here, I have posted a snippet from the 2024 harvest schedule. Our spring 24 harvest is scheduled to close March 22nd, and we have our opt-out scheduled for March the 26th. And then our fall 24 harvest is scheduled to close September the 27th, with our opt-out date on October the 1st. Marketing does have our harvest schedule. I don't think they've posted it to the STS website yet. We've asked them to please get that posted as soon as possible. So hopefully they will have that posted on the website by the end of this week. So, but take a picture. But here are the harvest close dates for 2024. Another STS update just for circling back to AQO 2023. If you did not attend and are interested in purchasing content, that will be available for purchase coming soon. I don't have the exact date yet on when that will be available, but STS will be sending out a communication when the content is available for purchase. Just a reminder, the deadline to claim your continuing education credit is Friday, December the 29th. And if you need any assistance obtaining your credits, if you've completed your survey and you have any questions, please contact learn@coreexcel.com, and CoreExcel will be able to assist you with any questions related to obtaining your certificate. Our AQO Hot Topics webinar, right now we have it scheduled for, I think that's a Tuesday, December the 5th, at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central. We are currently working on the agenda, and if there are any specific agenda items you would like for us to bring back to Hot Topics, we would love to get your feedback so we make that Hot Topics session useful to you all. So if there's anything from the on-demand content that you have questions about, if you would like for us to bring a speaker back to be able to answer some questions, or if there's anything from the live session, any additional topics that you would like for us to bring back and continue to educate on, please let us know. You can feel free to put that into the Q&A right now. If you have specific topics, feel free to put those into the Q&A now, or you can also just email your ideas to myself, Chastity, or Leslie. But again, we would love to get your feedback to make sure that we make that Hot Topic session as useful for you all as possible, and continue to provide the education that you all need and want. That is literally all that I have from the STS side of things. So next, I'll just turn things over to Chastity for our data manager education.
Excellent, thank you. And now that the music's not playing, my puppy, who apparently only likes rock and roll, has quieted down. So I apologize. Next slide. So today is a pretty light educational topic coming, right out of AQO and back into, I guess, coming into the end of the year and back into AQO hot topics. Today, we just have some light things to talk about. So this will include VAD complications, the sources of pulmonary blood flow when coding a Norwood procedure, as well as some updates to the fundamental diagnosis list as it pertains to wound. Next slide. So starting with our VAD complications, one thing that was pointed out to us as well as that we realized was if you, for those of you who have already attempted to code a VAD, you may have already noticed that, but if you have selected that there was a VAD explant or implant an explant, so essentially any explant, there is an error in the text in the training manual as well as on the data collection form. However, there is not an error in the logic in your software. So we don't have to do anything on the back end for this, but you just need to be aware of it from a text perspective or what's written in the document. So you see in the picture that I've included below, you would answer the question, which is sequence number 3325. Was there a VAD related complication? Yes or no? And so if you've said yes, and you've already said that you have done a VAD explant or VAD implant explant, then it would give you this next question. Was the explanted device implanted at another facility, meaning not at your facility, not at this surgical hospital, but was implanted at a different facility than yours? You would answer yes or no. The next question then is indicate the complications of the explanted device. So those words are correct. Indicate the complications of whatever device was explanted. But if you notice the short name of the field, it's VAD other facility complications. And that's what is a misnomer here. We want you to indicate the complications of any explanted device, not just those that if the device was implanted at another facility. So that's why if you go to the next slide, Leanne, you will see in the training manual as well, the definition that came out in the specs was indicate the complications of related to the VAD device that was inserted at a different facility. Next slide. So what you're going to see now is that what this sequence number 3335 should be complications for a VAD that was implanted at any facility. So whether your facility or another facility. And if you notice, the reason that the logic works in the specs is that the parent field for this was VAD related complication, not whether the device was implanted at another facility. And so it was just a misnomer and typo. And so we will clean this up in the training manual, but just know that your logic built into your software is working as intended. So next slide. This is what the training manual update looks like, and this has already been taken care of. So if you've already been out there looking at the training manual that was posted in November, you will see indicate all of the complications related to the VAD device that was explanted, regardless of where the VAD was implanted. So again, we want you to capture all complications of the device, whether it was implanted at your facility or any other facility. Next slide. Norwood source of pulmonary blood flow. So as you know, when you are coding a Norwood procedure, we are to also list what the source of pulmonary blood flow is as a secondary procedure in the list. And so with the advent of some of the new procedure terms that came in with version 6.23.2, as well as some updated terms, you know that these lists have been updated as well. So what you're going to find is that procedure 610, conduit placement, RV to PA, is no longer an acceptable procedure code to use in the new version. We should be using the field that was created to signify a sono shunt, essentially, code procedure 3680, RV to PA shunt. For example, sono shunt or palliative RV to PA non-valved conduit to augment pulmonary blood flow. So no longer will we be using conduit placement 610. We should be using procedure 3680. Next slide. So which procedures are now affected? So of course we have our straight up Norwood procedure, procedure 870, But we now have a new combination term that includes the Norwood procedure, which is 5012 Norwood plus systemic AV valvuloplasty plus conduit placement RV to PA. So what you're going to also see, we've struck out procedure 610 in the training manual, but then you're also going to see under the intent and clarification that in prior versions, 610 conduit placement RV to PA was an acceptable source of pulmonary blood flow. It is how we indicated things like sentinel shunts, but we are not to use this code for 623.2 going forward. And instead we're going to use the new term that I showed on the previous slide. Next slide. And before I move on, I should also say that the IQVIA, where they tell us that you don't have an appropriate source of pulmonary blood flow, will have this information updated as well. Okay, so moving on then to fundamental diagnosis. So in version 623.2, we added, in addition to 1310 mediastinitis, which is an old existing term, we added 2910 and 2920. And in the first webinar ever following the version rollout, we told you that we had a typo already, and this was for mediastinitis. And it said mediastinitis deep and mediastinitis superficial. It was supposed to read wound infection deep and wound infection superficial. They were not meant to be child fields of mediastinitis. So that was in a previous webinar. So your training manual looks like this currently. But what we did come to realize is that in version 623.2, none of these 1310, 2910, and 2920 should be allowable fundamental diagnoses. And so this will be updated in the training manual that you cannot select this as a fundamental diagnosis. So we'll put cannot be fundamental after in the training manual so that you will know not to use these. Now, obviously your software will still have these available and will still be available in their drop-down list, but you just need to be aware that you should not be coding mediastinitis or wound infection deep or wound infection superficial as a fundamental diagnosis in 623.2. And I think, is that my last slide? Yes, so in summary, please always continue to use the most recent training manual that's posted. So there was one that was posted just this week or last week, I think it was. So please use that. Note any of the updated definitions or clarifications that have been made. There is also the companion document that lists every change that was made. Obviously in the webinar, we go after big items and things that need more clarification. But you'll notice there are some other things that have been updated in the training manual. Some of these are based on FAQs that you have submitted or questions that you've posed to Leslie and myself. So thank you. And we keep making this document more and more useful and helpful to everyone that's using it. Remember that individual questions will not be posted, but you will get your responses appropriately and as previous. And of course, we are all always available for help.
Perfect. Thank you, Chastity.
Thank you.
Perfect. All right. I know we've got some questions. We got some questions coming in, so let's go ahead and tackle those again. If you have questions, just put them into the Q&A, or you can just use the raise hand function. Happy to do that as well. All right. The first question from Patricia: does anyone have a template for the aortic cases to get info from your surgeon for the aortic data elements that they would be willing to share? So I don't know if anyone in the group has a template that they've created. Patricia, if you'd like, if you want to put your email in the into the Q&A, I can just copy and paste it over into the chat so people can, if they want to just email you directly, we can go that way. All right, next question from Ruthie. Great point, Ruthie. I'm so sorry I did not mention this. Ruthie's asking, what is the time frame for AQO Hot Topics, the 12/5 date? So again, AQO Hot Topics is scheduled for December the 5th. It will start at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, and it's scheduled to go until 3 p.m. Eastern. So we may not go that entire time. It just depends on the agenda and how many items we have to cover. But again, if you do have specific items that you're interested in hearing more about at the AQO Hot Topics, please feel free to put those suggestions. You can put them in the Q&A here, or you can email Chastity, Leslie, or myself, but we need to sooner rather than later, as we need to have this agenda finalized probably by the end of this week. So we'd appreciate your feedback if there's something specific that you would like to have more education on. But again,
can I circle back to Patricia's original question about a template? I don't know if you've looked at this already, Patricia, and I have not, but under the adult cardiac surgery database, they do have surgeon worksheets. So that may be a good place to start. And it looks like the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are related to aorta or aortic valve procedures. So that may be a good place to start when looking for certain templates.
All right, thanks, Chas. And next question from Ren, will Hot Topics be recorded? Yes, ma'am, it will be recorded. Next question from Kelly. What is the expected turnaround time on submitted FAQs? She has questions outstanding since August. Should she resubmit?
So Kelly, I know we have your questions. Some of the questions are very good and require us to go to the core group and then over to the adult core group and then back to us and things. And so just know that when there's a delay, it's probably because your question gave us great pause and we need to come up with good answers for you. But I know for sure that we have your questions, and so they'll come back to you as soon as we have an answer.
Thank you, Chas. Yeah, some of those questions. Whew, lots of
with the new version, I think that
yeah.
We have a lot of questions, and I think it's great. It's just that we want to make sure, there are downstream effects sometimes to the answers that we give. And so we just want to make sure we're understanding all the downstream effects. And, the adult stuff is new for all of us. So.
Let's see, what procedure should be selected for wound infection, superficial and or deep?
I guess there would be the procedure that is completed. And so I mean, there are a variety of things, if you perhaps, had to reopen the sternum or had to, wash out the cavity, there are all variety of procedures that could be done for a wound infection, wound vacs, things like that.
All right, and Marina was just stating that there are aortic surgeon worksheets from the adult side. So I actually have the website pulled over, so I'm just going to show you where those are. And actually, Melinda just joined the call, so if you have any questions about these worksheets, I'm sure Melinda could help us out. So in the STS website, just click on adult cardiac, and under version 4.2. If you scroll down, we have all of the surgeon worksheets for the aorta, the aortic valve. So those worksheets are located here. Okay, and just FYI, I put Patricia's email in the chat box if anyone wanted to reach out to her. Thank you, Marina. Aortic worksheet on the adult side, yes. All right, Chastity, should we be using the latest training manual for all cases that will be included in the spring 2024, or do we use the 341 training manual for all cases before 6/30/2023?
Great question, Stephanie. So you're right. For surgical dates that are prior to the version go live, so 6/30/2023 and prior, you would be using the 341 training manual. The 623.2 training manual is only for those cases that occur after July 1 of 2023. Perfect. And I know it can be confusing between versions.
Yeah. Next question from Dawn. Oh, she's saying, here we go, Chas. For Hot Topics, she would love to hear some tips on best source of truth for the specific data fields related to pre-op, what is that diagnosis? I'm sorry, I'm not clinical, of heart failure.
I think it's supposed to be diagnosis.
Yeah. I was like, FX, I know DX is diagnosis, but I'm not really sure what FX is. Sort of a what to look for in cath echo reports for documentation of heart failure. She's finding the heart failure involved ventricle question tricky.
Excellent. Great.
All right. And Marina, circling back to the surgeon worksheet question for aortic, Marina was just saying, Patricia, it's best to use the surgeon worksheets. They are there and available to you. Here's a question from David for the VAD complications. When I perform the data validation, it shows VAD-related complication and VAD status discharge from hospital. Should these be answered if a VAD wasn't performed?
Okay. A couple things. Number one, the data validation is specific to your software. And so how the data validation works is not anything supplied by STS or in the database specs. So if there are errors that are occurring in your data validation, you want to work with your software vendor. However, VAD status at discharge is actually a field that is to be completed on every patient that discharges, whether or not a VAD was performed. And if you look at the available answers in the drop down, you will see that there's one that says, I think, no VAD used. I don't know what the lingo is, but that is an option. There are vendors, if you have never selected a VAD procedure, who automatically stamp this for you. And so you don't actually see this question in your software for all patients. You would only see it. It's buried within your VAD tabs if you have done a VAD procedure. So that was a vendor choice. And so if other vendors, you answer this on every patient that discharges. So I hope that helps. I think my advice to you, David, would probably be to go back to your vendor at this point to see how this is working.
Perfect. Thank you, Jess. All right. Next question, preoperative factor question. For illicit drug use within 1 year, sequence number 640, would we code that on a neonate with maternal drug use?
My initial instinct is to say no, but I'm going to ask you to please submit that to the core group because it's something we probably want to get answered in the training manual specifically. So if you would please submit that as a question. We don't usually, like moms who smoke, we don't call that pre-op smoking. And so kind of being consistent with that, I would think the answer is no, but I think the whole core group should weigh in. So please submit it. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. She said he will do.
Just to go back, Ruthie submitted a question that I typed an answer to, and then it took it off the
oh yeah,
it took it off the screen, so I apologize. But Ruthie said she does not have wound infection deep or wound infection superficial as a diagnosis choice. And she wanted to know if she's the only one. Remember, Ruthie, this goes back to these were put in the specs, therefore in your software as mediastinitis deep and mediastinitis superficial. And so that's where you'll find them, but they are to mean wound infection deep, wound infection superficial.
A good point, Chastity.
Yeah, so you'll have to search for that a different way in your software, unfortunately.
Yeah, good point. All right. While we're waiting for other questions to come in, just an update on our upcoming webinars. We do have our next monthly webinar scheduled for the 21st at 12 p.m. Central. Please note that the webinar on 12/19 will be canceled. I believe several of us will be traveling and out for the holidays during that time. So we have canceled the monthly webinar for 12/19, and plus we do have that hot topics webinar, I think like the week or week and a half beforehand. So that 12/19 webinar will be canceled. And then again, our CHSD hot topics webinar is scheduled for 12/5 at 10 a.m. Central, and will run through 2 p.m. Central. So, and that's and again, we may not go that entire time, but if you wanted to block that time off your calendar, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central. And again, please give us, feel free to give us some ideas on what other education or what you would like for us to bring back for hot topics. All right. Again, if you need to reach out to us, you can reach me here. If you have any analysis report or data submission related questions, please reach out to STSDB _helpdesk@sts.org. And then if you have any questions related to your participation agreement, invoicing, payments, reach out to us at stsdb@sts.org. And of course, Chastity and Leslie can be reached here. However, if you have clinical related questions, how to code something, please submit them via the FAQ process and not their sts.org mailboxes. And also I just wanted to, oh, where did my slides go? In case anyone joined us late and did not see, here is the harvest schedule for 2024. Again, this is currently not yet posted out on the STS website, but hopefully our marketing and communications team will have it posted by the end of this week. But our spring 24 harvest close date is March 22nd, and our fall 24 harvest close date is September the 27th. In case anyone is wondering, AQO 2024, we have not announced the location yet. That is still forthcoming. And just note that the AQO date is a little bit earlier in 2024, as I know it's typically around like the last week in September, but it has moved up. I believe it is around the 11th of September next year. I can't remember the exact dates off the top of my head, but just if you have any questions about that fall 2024 close date, that's not when AQO 2024 is happening for next year. And Nancy had a question if anyone had received their CEU from AQO yet. I'm not sure if anyone's received them yet, but Nancy, if you have any questions about the status of your certificate, please reach out to Core Excel. You can email them at learn@coreexcel.com. Somebody has a hand raised. Oh, it's Carol Crone. I don't know if she's.
Oh, I was just going to ask you to bring me over to the side. All right.
Carol, would you like for me to bring you over to the panelist side?
So for the CEUs, we are having our accrediting company. They're sending out the certificates every month, once a month. So I think they're probably just working through the first batch since AQO ended. So they should be coming out shortly. Emily Conrad is out of the office until next Monday, and we'll have a better idea of the status of those at that time.
Yeah. And then Beth said she reached out to Core Excel directly, and she was able to get her certificate. But yeah, but they do work through them in a batch process. Here, Carol, I'll promote you to panelist for the very last minute. So, for some reason, it won't let me do it. All right. I don't have any additional questions, but again, just a reminder that our next webinars are scheduled for, hold on, I don't want to do angry scrolling for you guys. Hold, please. Monthly webinar is 11/21 and the 12/19 is canceled. So just be sure and note that. All right. I don't see any additional questions. So I think we'll have a short meeting today and give you about 30 minutes back of your afternoon. So let's see here. Thank you. Oh, let's see here. Thank you everyone for joining. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us directly. So thanks everyone for joining. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And we'll see you on the 21st.